Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello and welcome. Good morning, friends, on this fine Tuesday. My name is Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com. You know all the places. You can get us, you can see us, you can observe us, you can catch us later should you want to. Spotify, iTunes, podcast, just whatever floats your boat. We are going to have a happy hour this Friday. How about them apples?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, happy
4 to
hour at
6
4
p.m.
to 6 at Retro Metro. Come by and just hang out with us. It's cool time, fun time. We're going to have a good time at Retro Metro 4 to 6 on a Friday. And, of course, we do have Lunch Bunch there. If you have not ever joined us for Lunch Bunch, be sure to get yourself registered at KSGF.com. And if you win, then we'll contact you, let you know. You will get a text from us. And it'll be like, hey, it's usually me.
Is that how that goes? Hey,
You're like, hey, it's Nick here, KSGF.
you
Your
want
name
to
was
get some
chosen.
lunch?
And a lot of times people obviously think that it's spam or something because they don't respond. And then I try to follow up. I'm like, hey, just, want to double check here. And I'm like, you signed up for this, right? I'm very suspicious about text messages. I don't know how else to contact people, though. We did email because they give their email as
I
well.
guess if we called them,
Yeah.
I feel like, because, people know our voices, so they'd be like, oh, okay, well, that is
Yeah, I get
maybe
it.
not a spam.
Here's the reason I don't is because I like to have as a reminder and just to keep things less likely to get mixed up a texting or email trail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I suppose if I left a voicemail, I could make a notation somewhere, but it's just so much easier to go through and to look at okay, this person was contacted here. I have all of that, and I did shift from email to texting people on it because I recognize that people a lot of times don't check their email and text messages. People are always texting, and I just figure I know people that if they get a voicemail, they don't even listen to voicemails. They're like, why would somebody leave a message? I'm not going to listen to a message. I mean, I don't think most people are that way, but I do know some people that way. Or their voicemail box, they check it so infrequently, it fills up. Like the person that I'm like, how does that even happen? How much, how little space do you have, or how many voicemails do you have that you have not listened to and or deleted to where you are so full it's like, we can't, sorry, close for business, can't take any more voicemails. So I've gone to the texting, and I'd say about 20% of the time the person just doesn't respond. So be sure to respond. Unless you just don't want to go. You change your mind. That's fine as well. Retro Metro, you can get registered for that lunch bunch at ksgf.com. And then if you win, you get to bring up to 5 people with you. But you don't have to bring anyone if you don't want to. Speaking of food, thought we'd kick things off talking about egg prices, down 61% since Trump took office. This is anecdotally somewhat it's fun because you may recall 3 days into the Trump presidency, people were running around. The price of eggs hasn't dropped. Donald Trump is a liar. His economic policies have failed. Look, this is proof. Look at all of you people. Egg prices haven't gone down. I mean, I remember, because this stands out, because of how absurd, it was not even a week into the presidency, and I remember people, left-wing people, anti-Trump people, posting about egg prices not going down. And there was one that stands out in my mind specifically was noting the one of the executive orders regarding moving away from all of this. Everyone gets to pick their own gender crap, and, guys are guys and girls are girls. And they're like, well, Trump has managed to figure that out, but egg prices are still high. Thanks a lot. Forcing me to use a certain gender pronoun, but my egg prices. And I was like, are you like, do you people not have any concept of how any of this works? Which clearly they don't. So now it's down 61% since Trump took office. Where are all you lefties out there? I'm confused. Surely you are not just picking some random issue that you thought you could use against Trump. I mean, surely you aren't someone that has no interest in the truth. You just find random things that you think look bad and like, yeah, that's it. See, Trump is bad. That can't be the case. Since Trump took office in January, the average price of a dozen eggs has plummeted from $6.49 on January 21st to only $2.52 today. That is a 61% drop. It's an even bigger drop from the $8 per dozen average eggs that hit in March. Now, I imagine if the left were forced, let's say that you've got a discussion about the economy and what impacts people personally, and it's on television, and you point out this reality, that the media would begin to tell you why it has nothing to do with Trump, of course. Well, it's nothing to do with Trump. Only high prices have stuff to do with Trump. But if it's low prices, if the economy does well, if people are going to the grocery store and the price of eggs is 61% cheaper, that has nothing to do with Trump whatsoever. He can't really affect the price of eggs unless it goes up. Then he did do that. See, that's how it works, of course. This is what we're dealing with in the world of completely irrational people. What an exhausting life it must be to live like this, to constantly just try to see everything as bad, all because you want to pin it on somebody. That's psychotic behavior. It really is. If you do that, there's something wrong with you. That is not normal behavior. Go through your social media feed and gauge how many of the postings you make are about something, uplifting or positive or seeing the bright side of things, or just, hey, got a new nephew, welcoming him to Earth, and he's fantastic, versus something negative that you're pinning on a person. And you may want to take that and just reflect on yourself a little bit. And are you really living your best life if that's what you're doing? You scroll through your feed, well, there's another one about Trump. Oh, another one. Gosh, maybe I do have a problem. I think you have a problem. But eggs for everyone down 61% since Trump took office. That's called winning. Winning with eggs. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in mainly after 2 p.m. with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking at Thursday, a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
The Pyramid Roofing Company talking text line, didn't the egg prices go up because the Biden administration killed like 500 million chickens? Yes, there was a tremendous slaughtering of chickens under the Biden administration. There's a bird flu thing came about, and the administration, many people believed, went a bit overboard in calling for the slaughter. I forget the exact number, but it was enough to where it caused a massive shortage of eggs, which is one of the reasons. Now, of course, there was just standard inflation anyhow, but that is what really caused it to skyrocket. And it hit arguably its peak around the time that Trump got into office. And this was something that was used as a weapon, though, in order to make it look like, look, Trump's policies aren't working. Egg prices haven't gone down, and he was sworn in 30 minutes ago. Look at these prices; they're still going up. And the administration, I mean, so Trump talked about, we're going to bring those egg prices down. Now, in fairness, he obviously understood. The administration understood that once we got back to the point where the supply was where it was before the slaughtering of all these chickens, that was going to bring prices down in and of itself. So that was inevitably going to happen. We just had to wait for that moment. But the fact that the media didn't really tell people that, because they didn't want to blame it on Biden. They didn't want to make it look like this was Biden's fault, and they knew that Trump couldn't immediately do anything. There was nothing that could be done for several months until the marketplace began to restabilize when it comes to eggs. And so they played off of people's ignorance in order to try and use the egg prices not coming down immediately in order to say, see, Trump's policies, they're not working, he doesn't know what he's doing. And that actually helped Trump because Trump could be like, hey, I'll fix these, knowing full well, again, that they were going to come down automatically. Now, he did talk at one point about a short-term in the immediate at the time, potentially importing eggs from other countries in order to try to get those prices to go ahead and start coming down. I don't know to what degree that ever actually happened, but that is ultimately what the cause of that massive spike was. It was the decision by the Biden administration to kill off all those chickens because of bird flu. I don't know whether it was necessary or not. I heard a lot of people in the industry say it went overboard, but I don't know. I don't, eat just tons and tons of eggs, so it didn't impact me like it did restaurants and people who do eat tons of eggs. And then, of course, Easter. Now, when it does come to the economy itself, Harry Enton over on CNN has a breakdown of some numbers, and it just continues. It's bad news after bad news after bad news for the Democrats.
After all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy?
I want to pause here because he used a specific word that answers the question to some degree. He says, after all of the recession fears, the sky is falling from the Democrats has benefited Donald Trump. Because the Democrats at every turn, when it comes to dealing with the economy, tariffs being a huge one of them, the Democrats run around telling the American people this is going to completely devastate you. They were literally at moments talking about how it was going to crash the stock market so drastically we were going to potentially end up in a Great Depression. Great Depression. This is what they were running around saying. But then it doesn't happen. People begin to recognize, they begin to tune it out. They quit listening. Now, the people who hate Donald Trump and they want to feel that anger and hate, they want to be validated because they want to believe things are going to go horribly wrong. So they turn on MSNBC or CNN and they listen to people telling them there's going to be a Great Depression. This is going to be the worst thing ever. Going to be economic collapse. The Trump tariff policy is going to turn the entire world against us and turn all of our allies to coordinate with China. Going to run them right into the hands of the Chinese. It just, those people that they want validated with their hatred of Trump. But the average person at some point, like, you guys keep saying this stuff, but it doesn't happen. Over and over and over again, you're telling us the sky is falling. You combine that with the fact that inflation has come down so significantly that even if I would predict, let's say that we do begin to see in certain areas some price increases due to tariffs, because of the punishing inflation increases over the last couple of years, people have felt at the grocery store, the potential increase here or there when it comes to tariffs isn't really going to be noticed that much by people. Now, had the economy been floating along perfectly prior to the Trump administration and there wasn't inflation and everything was going wonderful and the power of the dollar actually increased and the average spending power that the average American family had was higher than when Biden came into office, it might be a completely different story. But people went through such a punishing period that gives a little bit of leeway to where if you got a little bit of a pump over here or a little bit of a spike over here in this particular area, like strollers and then avocados or random things due to tariffs, it's just not going to be something that the average American feels in a real impactful, meaningful way. And it certainly isn't going to rise to the level of the rhetoric that Democrats and the media tell people that it's going to be. Harry Eaton at CNN continues.
Are you kidding me? If it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage when it comes to the party with a better economic plan. And again, this is after months of supposed economic uncertainty in which the stock market's been going bonkers, in which the tariff wars that Americans are against have been going on. And yet, despite all of that, the Democrats are down by 12 points on the economy. This speaks to Democratic problems on the economy better than basically anything that you could possibly look at. The Republicans still hold an advantage on the all-important key issue of the day, which is the party of the middle class, has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022, where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
You know, it's almost sad to be, frankly, I'm just going to speak frankly here, it's sad to be a Republican voter right now, because the opposition party, the Democrats, have so completely self-destructed. The extremely meaningful things that the Republican Party could do right now, like really, truly eliminate the deficit and actually start reversing the debt issue in this country. Let's make no mistake about it. The Republicans could do this. The Democrats have lost the economic argument. And as Eaton pointed out there, it's not one random poll. This is consistent. The Democrat Party has lost, they don't have credibility in that capacity any longer. Now, of course, a lot of Republicans are like, well, but if we go too radical, we'll lose an election. We'll lose power. What's the point in having power if you don't fix things? And it's, to have such a tremendous opportunity, and with Trump in the White House, and to see, establishment Republicans just wasted away, it almost just makes you sick to your stomach. But again, looking back to the Democrats, and this is a party that a generation or two ago was seen as the working person's party, and now you think about, what are they? Even amongst Democrats, the surveys have shown that when they think of the Democrat Party, they think transgenderism. They think sex change operations for kids. I mean, these are their priorities. Now you've got the party of anti-Semitism. This is what they have become. This is who they are. And as, on one hand, you look at it and you can strategically believe, if you're not a Democrat, well, this is good because they are further marginalizing themselves. They are further alienating themselves from average Americans into oblivion. But ideally, we would be in a country that had, two solid political parties that really genuinely had the American people's best interest in mind and were competing with one another to outperform one another. And not having that is not good for any of us. Can you imagine if two political parties, their interest truly, genuinely was about producing the best results and competing against one another for that? Of course, part of the reason we don't have that, frankly, is we lack a fully educated populace to understand what works and what doesn't work. Which is why you can have, the same pitches that have failed over and over and over again, pitched once again, over and over and over again. And so we're all at fault to some capacity. And, of course, you throw the public education system in there, which is supposed to teach us how to recognize these things and how to think for ourselves and recognize what works and what doesn't work. And it all cyclically turns us into a nation that degrades itself in terms of progress. But not getting too far off the beaten path there. This is just, it isn't that the Democrat Party is dead. It's that the Democrat Party of the past is dead. The problem is, the new Democrat, this metamorphosis that has been occurring, is not in any way, shape, or form positive for the United States of America. And in fact, it is making this country, as we are beginning to observe almost on a weekly basis at this point, a very dangerous place, particularly for people of certain demographics. Springfield's Talk 1041, the Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks elder law, long known as the Ladies in White, of course. Many of you familiar with Lori Rook, the incredible work she's done, proving as she took on the establishment as a conservative, running for statewide office, and now, fully continuing to dedicate herself to helping you plan for the sometimes unexpected, oftentimes the expected, but unpleasant. We all die. Until Elon Musk fixes that, we all still die. And many of us have property, things we want to pass down, oftentimes things that were passed down to us, family farms, family land. Maybe it's not even a farm that still worked like it was a few generations ago, but these are things you want to pass on. You held on to them specifically so your kids and grandkids can have those things. If you do not have that locked in, then the government can come in and make sure that doesn't happen. We know how greedy the government is. And we know how little the government actually cares about people and families and individuals. And so, I'm not saying that all of the people who work in government are that way, but just as a mechanism, it doesn't care. If you don't plan at all, government will decide where your stuff goes. And when it comes to medical power of attorney, your own spouse and kids will not be able to speak on your behalf if you don't take care of that as well. So what do you do? How much is it going to cost? Consultation to find out what you need to do in order to be safe, it's courtesy. This is how things are set up with Lori Rook and Ozarks Elder Law. It's courtesy. And then once they are able to determine what you need to do in order to make sure that you're taken care of, one price they tell you up front, no billable hours, no running up the clock, before you agree to make your family and your future safe exactly what it is going to cost. OzarksElderLaw.com. Get that free consultation today. You can also find that contact info under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in mainly after 2 p.m. with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking at to Thursday, a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
When Trump ran talking about fixing things, trying to level the playing field with tariffs, and of course, and this was during the election, the media telling us tariffs are taxes and how much it was going to raise taxes. And there were these numbers floating around. It's going to cost the average person $10,000 more just to live, and all this stuff. And then he gets elected, and we don't get that. Then there's Liberation Day, in which, they get implemented, and we're told, it's going to, in the stock market, remember, oh my gosh, Great Depression. Then by the end of the week, everything had leveled out. And you and I aren't feeling it on average. Now, I want to make it very clear. This doesn't mean that there aren't certain industries that aren't grappling with this. This doesn't mean that there aren't industries that are impacted by it, whether it is because of what is occurring today or what those particular industries are responding to regarding what could come tomorrow. But in terms of the average consumer, and that doesn't mean that these things aren't important. But the messaging problem is running around telling us as consumers that this is where it's really going to hit us. It's awful. It's horrible. And then, again, the tariff announcement, Liberation Day, and the average person like, oh, wait a minute. Kind of looking around, looking up at the sky. All this bad stuff hasn't happened yet. And I remember being told, just wait, June. It's going to happen next month. It's going to be awful next month. All right, well, we're here. We'll see. We'll see if these awful, horrible things happen. Perhaps they will, but we'll just all be so caught up in the excitement of Pride Month that we won't notice it. Maybe that's what we'll be told. I don't know. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was on CBS's Face the Nation. This was Sunday, with anchor Margaret Brennan on this very issue. By the way, some of you may have seen her. I would love to have a body language expert evaluate her. She, to me, physically, even if you don't have the volume on, comes across as so insecure. I don't mean like as a woman, but to me, you combine just her delivery and her body almost curls itself up as if she knows she doesn't know what she's talking about. And I think that's what happens with her. It's almost uncomfortable to watch because you feel as if this is somebody that knows she is in over her head. She is very ignorant to the issues in which she's asking these questions. And it just comes across as it's so painfully obvious to me. She's clueless as to this stuff, which, by the way, I don't believe that a person who is a host necessarily has to be that well-versed. To a large degree, I think sometimes it can be beneficial if a person who is asking the questions isn't too wonkish on the issue, because sometimes you forget what the average people don't know. The problem, however, is when somebody who isn't that educated on an issue has a political agenda. Because what they are doing is combining ignorance with an attempt to try and prove someone wrong instead of just asking genuine questions. And this is where you come off displaying your ignorance. This is where you come off looking poorly. And to me, it just really, really screams to be the case with anchor Margaret Brennan. Anyhow, so here she is, and talking about the economy and challenging Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on the economy, and this is the exchange.
Because when you met with the Chinese earlier this month, and you went down from the 145% tariff down to about, it's like 30%. 30% is not nothing, tax on goods coming in here. Retailers are warning of price hikes. Well, when you go back to school shopping, things are going to cost more.
But Margaret, some are and some aren't. Home Depot and Amazon said they're not.
Before consumers, the reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
Margaret, when we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
Just trying to gauge for people planning ahead here.
Now that response is a response from someone who really isn't interested in the answers. No interest in the purpose of all of these interviews is to demonstrate these people are wrong. They just don't know what they're talking about. Well, the Chinese this. Chinese said this. Manufacturer said this. Now, Scott Bessent is correct. And frankly, I got to be honest with you. I know people who hate Trump have an emotional block, so they can't appreciate this. If you listen to what a lot of these people say, they are refreshingly honest. if you noticed, the Treasury Secretary did not say, absolutely not, there will not be any sort of inflation, or there won't be price hikes on anything at all. Now, that would be what one might expect, right? Those people, what they're saying, they're just playing politics. Those people are also donors to the political opposition. Instead, the Treasury Secretary said, hey, some prices are going to go up, but some aren't. And frankly, we don't know at this given moment when we're dealing with negotiating with different countries exactly how it's all going to play out. We're going to have to wait and see. And he reminded her, hey, remember just a month ago you were claiming that by now we would see this inflation everywhere, and that didn't come out. So it's like the adult in the room. Can we all just acknowledge that we don't, that there's nothing solid that is suggesting prices on everything are going to go up everywhere. And that is the adult approach. That is the approach, frankly, of someone who's not a politician. Someone who is Treasury Secretary recognizes and acknowledges that, yeah, we probably will see some prices go up in some certain areas. But he noted, and we hear, well, retailers. Okay, yeah. Walmart has talked about maybe hiking some of their price. They get a lot of stuff from China. He notes, however, Home Depot, and he cited another place, they said it's not going to affect them in terms of passing along to the consumer. Mixed bag right now. And this, of course, is the interim period while many of these negotiations regarding tariffs with other countries are still ongoing. I think that a lot of, and listen, I know many of you get this, but some of you tell yourselves, I just wish we had people in there that were just honest and they weren't politically speaking. But then when they do, you ignore them because, well, Trump is evil. And I just don't know how much more straightforward and non-political you can get than having a Treasury Secretary that just notes, listen, here's the reality of it. Yeah, some things may be up here, but look, over here, they're not. If we're going to have a conversation about this, let's talk about reality. And I would argue back to the earlier point where CNN was analyzing the economic numbers and saying, what on earth is happening with the Democrats? How is it that not only are they not gaining the American trust when it comes to handling the economy for the average American and the working man, they're losing it, and they have lost. They've completely lost the working man party's reputation. It's because of stuff like this. If you just plopped down and we're not, at this moment, have had no connection to the American economy, but you listen to these people, you listen to the journalists, the reporters, I just even take Democrats, elected politicians out of it, but you would think, oh my gosh, it is mayhem out there. It is insanity. That's what you would think. And so when average Americans have felt the stabilization of the economy from the previous administration, but then they see this presentation, and they're like, you're not speaking to me. Whatever you're talking about, this is not the world that I'm in. And it's that relationship, that disconnect is consistent, though it's upside down, because the average American person spent several years being told by the same media people, no, you're doing great. Everything's wonderful. You're not really affected by these prices. Don't worry about it. It's just temporary. And the American people, I think there was a real awakening, even aside from the cover-up of Biden's cognitive issues. People are like, what are you talking about? Things are not good. And now people have felt the stabilization, and they're feeling more positive. Last week or the week before, there was one of the polling outlets that gauges how people feel about the direction of the country, and the numbers showed that it was the highest number of people feeling we were headed in the right direction since they began taking that data and analyzing it. And so here you have people that are feeling good, feeling positive, feeling that, right now maybe things are still a little unsteady, but we feel things are headed in the right direction, and then they turn on the news and being told how awful it is. Coming up, I just want to play a bit of audio because, again, it's the adult in the room situation. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett was on ABC's This Week, and the issue of tariffs on steel is something that Trump's like, going to raise tariffs on steel. Now, what you can do is turn on the news, and because it's something Trump's doing, you know exactly what you're going to hear from the reporters, from the journalists. You're going to hear how horrible and awful this is. But what you're going to hear from the National Economic Council Director, Kevin Hassett, is somebody, again, who's not a politician. He's like, listen, here's the situation. This is the deal. I want to play that next. I'm Nick Reed. There was a text asking my thoughts on if Putin will use nukes, given the very significant attack that was launched by Ukraine. I'll talk about that coming up here, but I did want to go ahead as we were covering economic issues and just really how refreshing it is if you can be objective to hear the people within the Trump administration. Trump's different. He's got his own refreshing way about him. But what I genuinely, I find myself listening to some of these people and actually enjoying it because I'm learning something sometimes. Now, not a lot of times I like, oh, yes, I understand this. But it just, as an American people, previous administrations, Republicans and Democrats, like you could just predict exactly what they're going to say, what the safe talking points are. And increasingly what we get out of some of these people, and the National Economic Advisor, Kevin Hassett, is one of them, is it's just straight talk. Here's the deal. This is what's going on. I think it's one of the frustrations that the media has as well. They're not used to that. Steel industry. Tariffs on steel. And for a lot of people, just because of the way that this is presented, well, there's just, why would this even be good? Why would anybody even think to do this? I mean, all it's going to do is raise the price of steel, which means everything is steel is going to be right. What's the upside of this? And so Kevin Hassett on with ABC's This Week on the issue of steel tariffs.
Let's talk about steel. The European Commission responded this morning to the president's announcement of doubling on the tariffs on Friday. They say it in a statement to ABC News that it undermines efforts to find a negotiated solution, and they're prepared to impose countermeasures. Your response?
Right. Well, the problem is there's an OECD study, it comes from Paris, that says that because Chinese steel production is something like double the global capacity, that steel industries all across the world are in trouble because of China dumping of steel. And China's doing that not just because they love us and they want to give us nice steel. They're doing that because it prepares them to win a war because they're the only ones who can make steel. And so President Trump is going to make sure that that never happens in the U.S., that we don't have the steel we need in case of war, and Europe should do that as well.
Yeah, but I asked you about the European response. I mean, they say they're going to...
The European response is they should protect their steel, too. I mean, the bottom line is that we can't go into... We don't ever want to have a war. In fact, President Trump, we expect, is going to have a wonderful conversation about the trade negotiations this week with President Xi. That's our expectation. But the bottom line is that we've got to be ready in case things don't happen the way we want. Because if we have cannons but not cannonballs, then we can't fight a war. And if we don't have steel, then the U.S. isn't ready and we're not preparing ourselves for something. And if we're not strong, then that's when bad things happen. So we have to show strength. We have to have a steel industry that's ready for American defense.
So the structure of that conversation went as follows. George Stephanopoulos says, Europeans don't like this. So what do you say to that? And Kevin Hassett begins to explain the significance and importance of why it is that the United States feels that the United States needs to do this, and it's national security reasons. Now, there is the benefit if you're in the steel industry in the United States. This is helpful to that industry here as well. But listen, China is dumping tons and tons of steel. They're undercut. This is all strategic for them. This is part of their war against the United States. This is part of the prepping for it. And he notes, we have put ourselves in a very, very bad position. And, Trump's first term where he scolded our European allies, specifically Germany, because they were making themselves reliant on energy from Russia, telling them, if Russia ever, invades a country that's an ally of ours, talk about a Nostradamus. It's like, that's going to be really, really bad to be funding Russia and reliant on energy for them. Probably shouldn't do that. Of course, we've seen the outcome of that. Trump was right. But when it comes to steel, largely, we're in the same position with China. And if we do, God forbid, end up in some sort of war, China is utilizing the steel issue as a weapon. They're building this framework to where they are steel wealthy and we are steel poor. And you need steel to fight a war. And so Kevin Hassett here is explaining that, listen, that's the reality we're in. That's what we're trying to remedy. George Stephanopoulos' response is, yeah, but the Europeans said they don't like it. That's what I was asking you about. It's like, did you not just hear what we're talking about here? Okay, they're more interested in creating this narrative where the Europeans don't like what we're doing. Oh, so that's all that matters. It's a popularity contest. We shouldn't worry about the fact that China is laying the groundwork to have massive advantages over us, to outlast us when it comes to the ability to fight in a traditional war because they have all the steel and we don't. Because that's their long game. Like that's of no interest to you. Oh, because our European allies, they don't like the way that we're approaching it. And that doesn't mean that's not a significant situation. But what is more important is the larger picture of why it is that we're doing this. Some people, again, might disagree. Might think, oh, China will never do anything. We don't need to worry about that. People can have different perspectives on this stuff, but my point is you really see on full display with this administration and the media that doesn't really care about like the root reasons for things. They don't care about what is actually going on. And then you have these people from the Trump administration, they're actual adults giving adult answers to these questions. And I, for one, find that refreshing. Today in Politico, Finance is going to be voting on Billy Long's nomination to be IRS commissioner. That is slated to take place this morning. We have a happy hour at Retro Metro. That will be this Friday, 4 to 6. Chance for us just to hang out and kick off the weekend. So we'd love for you to join us if you don't mind. And, you can have dinner, you can just have drinks, or just have conversation. It's your choice. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nick Reed. Father's Day golf giveaway, KSGF.com. You can register to win a round of golf for Dad and 3 of his friends at one of the Big Cedar golf courses. That opportunity again at KSGF.com. Beautiful outdoors. I mean, that's just, if you're a golfer, that's a great way to experience the great outdoors. You can do the same, of course, in your own backyard if you're a homeowner. Under Hardscapes and Outdoor, building that outdoor living space. That's what I like to think of it as, where you can live outdoors when you want to live outdoors just as comfortably. Whether it's an outdoor kitchen to have water features for a relaxing, sort of self-soothing atmosphere. You like to cook out a lot. Maybe you want an area to have that Traeger, to have that Blackstone, to have the green egg. You want one of every kind possible. You love to entertain. Have numerous different smokeless fire pits built in as well. There's really, if the mind can imagine it, then Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor can, in all likelihood, do it. Premier workers, premier plans, premier product. This isn't the stuff that you can go and just buy. The average person doesn't have access to these product lines because they are premier. You can find out more, including if you have sort of an idea of what you're looking to do. They have a ballpark calculator where it'll give you a roundabout idea of what you're looking at in terms of investment to turn that space right now that you've paid for but really isn't being fully utilized into an outdoor living area. HunterHardscapes.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Hey, to Oscar in Palmdale, California. He said he's watching on YouTube live this morning. Oh. He texted in on the Pyramid Roofing Company Talk and Text line. Well, good morning to you out there. Let's see. Well, it's early out in California. Early riser. Oscar is. That's my declaration there. Okay. I expected you to say something and then you didn't say anything. So there was this awkward silence. Okay. All right. Hey, someone had asked the question about the devastating drone attack on Russia. And, you know, what does this mean in terms of potential nuclear war? And I think sometimes we just don't know. And people can make predictions, and odds are you're going to have some people predict correctly because you're going to get, there's only so many scenarios that can play out, and odds are some people will stumble upon the correct one. And yeah, one way to look at this is if Putin gets backed into a corner in which he feels as if it's do or die, that might be when he would decide to do just that. I believe some of the Russian assets that were destroyed were capable of delivering some of the nuclear weapons. But I imagine there's still ways to deliver nuclear weapons in order to just step things up. And I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, that is a possibility. It's a bit of potentially dangerous irony that the closer Ukraine would get to actually beating Russia, the closer you get to annihilation by nuclear weapons. And one thing that we have observed, I think most people agree, is that we as a world overestimated to varying degrees the military capabilities that the Russians had. And so perhaps when it comes to nuclear weapons, the ability to successfully deliver and detonate in a way that maximizes damage, perhaps we've overestimated that as well. Or heck, we may have underestimated it. I know that sounds like not an answer to a question that's asking a very specific, potential scenario, but I don't know. Will it get to the point also that you never know, palace intrigue, people that are surrounding Putin, they don't necessarily have the same perspective, the do or die, like the suicide mission that he does, and they fear that if Putin does decide, well, I'll show you people, I'm going to be dead soon anyhow, and I'm going to launch some nuclear weapons into Ukraine, that they fear what the potential repercussions of that could be, and they're like, I got family in this country, I don't want this. Will there be some overthrowing or even an internal assassination of Putin? These are all very distinct possibilities, but it's a precarious time, that's for sure, and it certainly is a good question. And our I think instinct oftentimes is to see something like that tremendous success, militarily speaking, by the Ukrainians, and go, wow, that's fantastic. That means that Putin's on his heels, and this is getting us closer to a positive outcome, whether it is Putin saying, okay, I'm ready to talk now, realizing that this is a major military setback that he cannot come back from, if that is the case, or that, gosh, maybe Ukraine could just militarily win this thing after all. That's a distinct possibility, and it can give us the false sense of security that this thing could end with Russia just losing, and it's a nice, neat little package other than all the dead people. But we forget that, yeah, there's that nuclear weapon component there, and will it be okay? It's last minute, and I got no other option. I'm backed into a corner. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a very legitimate question. Weather in a moment. Right now, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in mainly after 2 p.m. with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking ahead to Thursday, a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Russia lost $23 million in World War II and still won. That's true. They also had a couple more allies that they don't have this time around, militarily speaking. Yeah, they don't necessarily. Humans are very disposable in the mindset of the Russians' government approach, or at least that's how it's been demonstrated thus far. Coming up, a Washington Post has a story about the massive drop in fentanyl flowing across the border. Now, to you and me, this makes sense. Borders secure compared to what it was 6 months ago, massively more secure. However, the brilliant minds of the Washington Post, their entire piece is essentially based around the idea that it's a mystery and they can't figure out why this is. Seriously. Can't figure, I have no clue whatsoever. This is another demonstration, clear demonstration, that the outlets whose purpose it is to provide us with information we're not aware of, yet they consistently demonstrate all of us actually know what's going on, yet they find themselves mystified.
In today's day and age, this is
Pinnaker Honda South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. The Pinnaker family, great folks over there. And don't forget, every Friday is Food Truck Friday. It's a great day to go test drive a new vehicle. If you're into the electric car thing, they have the Honda Prologue with 0.99% financing available now. Maybe you're more of the 2025 Honda Ridgeline truck. As low as $44,430 for $199 financing available. But what about certified pre-owned? The interest rates are always higher for that. 0.99% financing on select certified pre-owned Hondas. Incredibly low rates for pre-owned vehicles and all sorts of other great deals as well. And they're good people over there. If you have that cliched thought in your head about the typical salesperson and they're just harassing you and you end up walking out with a much, much bigger payment than you thought that you were going to get, I encourage you to visit Pinnaker Honda or any of the Pinnaker locations for that matter, and you'll find that it's a much different experience. It's where I bought my truck, well before I ever started talking to you about the good people at Pinnaker. Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell. You can also get their info at ksgf.com under Nick's endorsements. The Washington Post being mocked online by the White House, among others, for pathetic reporting on what the liberal-leaning news outlet called a mysterious decline in fentanyl flowing across the border. I mean, these people are willfully ignorant. You would think at some point embarrassment, shame would come into play here. I think sometimes they really are this clueless. The results are there. Massive decline in fentanyl flowing across the border. The Washington Post reporting on this decline, noting that U.S. seizures at the southern border are down almost 30% compared with the same period in 2024. The outlet, however, states that the drop, quote, represents something of a mystery. Are you serious? Quote, after years of confiscating rising amounts of fentanyl, the opiate that has fueled the most lethal drug epidemic in American history, U.S. officials are confronting a new and puzzling reality at the Mexican border. Fentanyl seizures are plummeting. What U.S. officials are puzzled by this? Who are these people that are like, I wonder why this is happening? This is so strange. Among the possible reasons listed by the outlet, cartels finding other ways to smuggle the drugs into the U.S., cartel internal strife, ingredient shortages, and a possible decline in demand. So fentanyl, this highly addictive drug, all of a sudden, people are like, you know what, I'm just done with it. It's like Pringles or hamburgers or something. Like, you know what, I'm just going to cut back a bit. Are you serious? We really think that's what it is? I didn't know that you could just turn it off like that. I'm not somebody that has ever been part of the world of taking addictive drugs, opiates. It was my understanding that it's not that easy, that you don't just like, you know what, I don't like it anymore. It's the flavor. The flavor just doesn't do it for me anymore. I think I'll move on to something else. I mean, it is the most of all. I would love to have been in that room where they're sitting around. Does anybody figure this out? What angle should we go here? What should we? I don't know. Maybe people just don't like taking it anymore. I don't know. Maybe the cartels, they're bickering back and forth. They're fighting over this, and maybe that's it. There wasn't a single person that was like, hey, let's see, what else has stopped flowing across the border? Well, pretty much everything. Do we know why that happened? Illegals, for example. We went from, in any given week, 80,000 apprehensions, and now it's down to 7. Do we know why that happened? We think, there's nobody at the Washington Post that says, maybe it's that securing the border thing that Trump did. Oh. This truly is North Korea style journalism, in which the story itself has no connection to reality whatsoever. None. Zero. All that matters is the narrative. Now, North Korea, the narrative is always Kim Jong-un is God and awesome, and so that's the narrative. Of course, the narrative that the media has here is nothing that Trump does is good. Nothing that Trump does is positive. The only results that ever occur due to Trump policy are bad things happening. Excuse me, because he's Hitler, of course. And Hitler can't do good things. And so here is a very positive development, something that the Biden administration couldn't get a handle on whatsoever. They couldn't do it. In fact, we just continue to see increases in fentanyl. He made a, quote, deal with the Chinese where the Chinese claimed, well, we'll cut it back a little bit. He thought that was a deal. Biden did. The Biden administration. Well, China, I got this thing secure. They said they'd cut it back a little bit. The deal wasn't to stop. Of course, we would learn that China never complied with that deal anyhow. Within 2 weeks, within a month, the border is virtually completely secured. And the Washington Post can't figure out why it is that there's been a dramatic drop in fentanyl into the United States. How do these outlets? I wonder what Jeff Bezos thinks about that headline, about that story. Jeff Bezos, who has seemingly recognized that the political advocacy of the paper is something that has been harmful to the brand and has, again, according to reports, has put them on notice, hey, we need to become legitimate once again. You imagine seeing that headline? Or what's their next expose going to be? Now, I wonder why it is that illegals aren't coming across the border anymore. Maybe global warming got fixed. I wonder what may have caused that. This plummeting of human trafficking occurring. What on earth could that be about? Maybe people just don't like to buy humans anymore. That must be what it is. People don't like to buy children to rape them any longer. So that's got to be what it is. What an embarrassment. People spend money. People spend money to get that newspaper, that information, and people spend money to be seen advertising with an outfit like that. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, the Pyramid Roofing Company. We've got lots of rain in the forecast over the next couple of days, and if your roof just simply can't handle another rainy day, make sure to reach out to Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer emergency tarping services, and they also offer free roof inspections. They're also experts when it comes to dealing with insurance, and they work through that insurance process with you without making you sign anything. And if you are in a situation where you do need a whole new roof, they also offer discounts for our military and our first responders on that new roof install. So if over the next couple of days you notice any type of leaks or drips, remember the Pyramid Roofing Company for all of your roofing needs. You can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Regarding the mysterious situation, according to the Washington Post, that no one can figure out with the massive drop in fentanyl pouring across the border. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line, how long before they complain about the inflated price of fentanyl and how the poor drug addicts can't purchase it because the price increased due to the shortage? Listen, nothing would surprise you. Or tariffs. They could blame it on tariffs. How, yeah. Well, I mean, it's just not fair that poor people are going to get cut off, because that's a difficult thing to do. Only the wealthy will be able to afford fentanyl. Coming up, there's a Eric Swalwell. These Democrats, on one hand, if you are not a Democrat, they are the gift that keeps on giving. But at the same time, they are just such an embarrassment. Some of these people are elected officials. He attempted to troll Donald Trump with a viral video, and of course, it's just so cringy. I don't know that I've seen any Democrat for a significant period of time post anything on social media that what didn't make you just cringe up and think, oh my gosh, that's so uncomfortable to watch. I can't think of anything. Every time, and I genuinely mean, I'm sure that there are some postings that are straight up and normal, but the ones that go viral, every one that goes viral for the wrong reasons, for them. Because they get completely mocked by normal people, by Trump supporters as well, but largely by normal people. Swalwell's the latest, that coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk at text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the First Alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in mainly after 2 p.m. with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking ahead to Thursday, a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
The Democrats have proven for some time now to be absolutely incapable of having any sort of video go viral for a reason other than it being so cringy and uncomfortable to watch. Eric Swalwell is the latest. Eric Swalwell, former Democratic candidate for the presidency, California congressman. He, of course, spent a couple years in a relationship with what turned out to be a Chinese spy. And he's just an idiot. Now the video, and I'll explain, if you don't understand the taco thing, this, by the way, is just, there's a number of levels of failure here. I'll explain the taco thing in a moment for those that don't know. This is something that I think anti-Trump people believe has really just taken the country by storm.
Yep, they really got him.
Yeah, that I would bet 99% of Americans have no clue what it is that you're even talking about. But whatever. So the video it's a TikTok, and which is appropriate that it's Chinese-owned TikTok, and the fact that Swalwell was being tricked into having an affair with a Chinese spy. You'd think of all of the social media outlets, that would be the one that he would not go on just because of that connection, but that aside. And he's sitting at his desk, and there just happens to be a Taco Bell taco laying there. And then the person behind the camera / phone approaches him and says, why the blank, uses the F word, because the Democrats,
Yeah.
this I'm telling you, this is a layer cake of failure.
Yeah, I don't know what is with them all of a sudden just cussing, like, this is so cool and we're so hard.
Dana Perino, months ago, when this is something that Democrats really started doing, compared it to when a kid, like a 5 or 6 year old, or maybe an 8-year-old, learns a curse word for the first time, and they want to use it always. It's something that they feel cool. They learn it. It makes them feel adult. It gets them attention, and so they'll just use it over and over again. And I thought that was a pretty good parallel, because that is what has happened. They think, well, Donald Trump talks salty, so if we do that, that means people are going to think we're cool as well. And of course, the problem, like everything else that they do, it just comes off it's so thirsty. Like this desperation for attention, this desperation to make people talk, oh, you're so cool, and yeah, you really showed them. And it's just very, very off-putting. But no one is honest with these people and says, yes, you have to stop this stuff. And of course, people who aren't Democrats, especially Trump supporters, love this stuff. I mean, just love it. So, back to the video, now that we're 3 seconds into it. The person behind the camera says to Swalwell, who is sitting there with a Taco Bell taco next to him, and says, why the F is Trump always chickening out on tariffs? And so then Swalwell is this uncomfortable, I don't know, it feels like an eternity, but it's probably just 10 seconds of him eating the taco. And then he looks up and he says, like, anything else or something like that. And that's the end of the video. Now, a normal person is going to be like, what the hell is that even about? This is the taco thing. Taco is supposed to stand for Trump always chickens out. I don't know whoever came up with this, but clearly there is a small segment of the Democrat population that thinks this is really going to be fire, man. This is it. We finally regained the edge on cool. It is supposed to suggest or reflect on this, which isn't reality, that when it comes to the tariff issues, that Trump chickens out. Now you may say, well, when does he chicken out? He doesn't. This is either a misunderstanding because of lack of understanding about how negotiations work, or it is a deliberate attempt by Democrats to mislead people. And their party is a combination of the two, ignorance and dishonesty. So it's very difficult at times to tell which is the angle here. What they are trying to describe as Trump chickening out on tariffs is when he is doing exactly what he has said the point of the tariffs are. And that is to bring other countries to the negotiating table. Or at least give them the opportunity to. Trump creates this win-win situation. That's his approach when it comes to tariffs. We are going to put a tariff on you that, in his assessment, levels the playing field. And the upside of it is that tariff revenue goes into the Treasury. So, yay, America, we get that money. Now, if the other country says, we don't really like that tariff, then Trump has said, if you want, come on over. We'll have a chat. And we'll figure out a way to improve the situation for the United States that will allow for the tariff we're putting on you to be lowered. That is what the Democrats are trying to claim is Trump chickening out by doing exactly what he has said he's going to do. This is the plan. This is why this is being done. And ignorance and dishonesty, I think some of it is ignorance because these are people, really you think about it, why is Trump doing what he's doing? He's doing what he's doing because of generations of presidents that have not negotiated very well for the United States of America. This is why we're in the position that we're in. We always have been forced, as the American people, to take the short end of the stick. I think to some degree, some of these Democrats and even maybe some Republicans genuinely don't understand this is how negotiations work because they've never really happened in a meaningful way. We've never had anyone on behalf of the United States successfully negotiate these things in a meaningful way in which the United States comes out ahead. So this is all new territory to them. I just don't understand this. We've had tariffs in place. In fact, Biden put tariffs in place when it came to China, but it was to, quote, punish them for stealing intellectual property and a number of other things. And he did it right before, I believe it was the midterm elections. So it was done for political purposes. But it wasn't done in order to create a scenario of negotiation to reset things so that the United States was in a better position when it came to that relationship. Tariffs have not been used as a way to start negotiations to put the U.S. in a better position. I think there is a real possibility that some of these people really are so lost in this. They have no idea how these things work. None. Some of these people are probably the people who go in to buy a new car and end up getting swindled because they have no ability or comprehension on how to actually negotiate things. Or just anything, these people, they really fancy themselves like, I'm going to get a good deal. And then they come out and, the significant others like, so how much did you get off? Well, I didn't get anything off, but you know what? I had them throw in this feature and I went ahead and they got the wheel wax feature on there. I really took them to the woods. And it's like, oh my gosh, you did not do this well at all. I do believe some people in D.C., political opposition, they do recognize that Trump, what he is doing, they're not ignorant to it. I mean, he doesn't hide it. He says it. It's just some don't understand it. I think some do, but the last thing they want is for people to see that it's successful. So what they do is they take what it is that Trump said, here's what my plan is, this is what I'm going to do. And then when these things start to come to fruition, they don't want to be like, oh, maybe we were wrong and this is going to turn out well. They just claim, well, he's just chickening out. No, that's not what that is. So this is just yet another example in one little TikTok video from a Democrat, a layer cake of complete failure and firing on all failure cylinders, displaying why it is that the Democrats just continue to lose and lose and lose, and why Trump is a winner. And frankly, it's not even really that fair of a fight. And back to the thing where he allowed himself to be convinced that a haughty Chinese spy, which he claims he didn't know she was a spy, who knows? Somebody should just say to him, you really thought she was really interested in you? I mean, you that delusional? Come on, man. You never suspected. You never thought, why does this hot chick have an interest in me? Look at you. I mean, while he's not the ugliest guy in the world, he's just such a... Ugh. He's just so cringy. By the way, if you are... Listen, this is just how my mind works. If I'm a person who's in government and I sit on... I think he was on he was on some committee, like I think the Intelligence Committee. And here I'm at a hotel bar somewhere, and I get approached by a beautiful Asian woman who seems to be interested in me. I'm looking around. I'm like, why me? And then she seems real interested in me, and then we get ourselves into some sort of relationship, and she's just really interested in my work. Just really interested in what I do. And so you feel compelled to share information that she's clearly trying to get out of you as a spy. Why wouldn't you just lie? If I try to put myself in a position like Swalwell, and I would think to myself, well, I'll just lie to her. You're a liar anyway. It's not as if you are bound by honesty and trust. So you're a liar anyway. And if you are just giving this person information to impress them, just on the very off chance that this might be someone trying to pry me for information for reasons other than she's just in love with me and interested in me, I think I would just lie about what I knew. I'd throw her off the track. Feed her bad information. He didn't even have the smarts to do that. What an idiot. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line. Dems cannot meme, and they do not understand negotiation tactics. Another noting that Trump, he should set up a taco bar in the White House. Trump is very good at that. Trump is so fantastic at recognizing it, that if there's something the opposition is doing that he suspects could potentially turn into something in terms of messaging and marketing, he just steals it away. People don't remember this, but I do. Hillary Clinton's campaign is the one that came up with the term fake news. And I want to say it was, there was this at the time, this mostly chatted online about, some of you are going to know about this, child trafficking in this pizza joint, and there were beliefs that, the Clintons were involved and so forth, and she had talked about that once, and she was referring to it as fake news. And I think, and by the way, you know what else her campaign originated? Birtherism. It was during the primary that Hillary Clinton was running against Barack Obama, and it was supposed to be hers, and here came Barack Obama, and the party decided, oh no, we want this guy. This was the real beginning of Democrats rigging elections. And so out of desperation, her campaign began floating the idea that Barack Obama was not born in the United States. That was her campaign that started that. Well, Trump decided, he saw that and thought that, now this was before Trump was ever even running for president. He started getting involved, but it was obviously something that, as he was out there in some capacity, the run up to an election, I forget exactly on the timeline, but he decided that he thought, that's something that that could be pretty useful. The mugshot. Oh boy, they could not wait to get that mugshot. They thought, and you know what? And Trump's like, you know what? A mugshot can be very powerful. I'm going to take that. I'm going to use that. Now, the thing about the taco thing, and whether, Trump set up a taco bar in order to take it from him, I don't know. I think still most people have no idea. It's failure to launch. It's not something that is really catching on. But if Trump felt that was, in terms of messaging, an area in which they were gaining ground, and yeah, I think he could steal it away. Really make a deal of it, have a big taco of it. If you have some big tariff announcement that's a positive for the U.S., just have tacos and not even reference the Democrats and how it is that they've been trying to market this whole taco thing as Trump always whatever. What is it? Trump always, I forgot already.
Trump always chickens out.
Yeah, chickens out. And you know what? If I were Trump, I'd just we've gotten this tariff news. Now we're all going to have some tacos. And be like, you know what taco stands for? And then have his own, Trump always conquers opposition or something like that, where just take it and make it act like, that would just drive the left so nuts. Act like he came up with the idea of using tacos and putting some clever name with it. Do you know how mad? It would almost be worth it just to watch them pitch their little fit and go hysterical over it. And then they would probably try to accuse him of being racist because why tacos?
I kind of hope he makes T-shirts.
Yeah. Okay, that would be a good one. What Trump always conquers opposition. That's not bad. I mean, there's probably something better. Like if you could maybe incorporate tariffs into it, or no, just if you don't incorporate tariffs, that way he could use it all the time, just as a blanket. Look how awesome Trump is. Now that more I think about it, the more I hope that he does do something like that, just to watch him go angry. Like, they really thought we got with this taco thing. Why do you have to take that from us, too? He took the mugshot from us. He took the birther thing from us. He took the fake news thing from us. And now he's taking the taco thing from us. He just takes everything from us. Listing the things that Trump has brilliantly taken from and owned from the left, things that they tried to create in order to go after him, or even not after him. Hillary Clinton, a lot of people forget this. They don't, or just don't remember it. She really, the first time I remember ever hearing fake news, it was her talking about things that is being covered about it. And I want to say it was surrounding the Pizzagate thing, which if you don't know about that, don't worry about it, or you can look it up if you want to. And Trump, then Trump started using fake news. It was her campaign that started the racist birther rumors against Obama. Trump thought, you know what? Hey, I think we can use that and make it something. Then more targeting him, the mugshot being one of them. But I forgot the perhaps most impacting one, and Sarah had mentioned it, and some of you texted in, the garbage truck.
Yeah, how could you forget?
I mean, that
was
probably,
the big one.
That was probably the most impacting one, because that was taking something in which here Biden was already out of the race, and he, and you had Kamala running around trying to play we're the positive people, and Trump's a name caller, and then Biden goes out there like they're all a bunch of garbage. And so Trump and that garbage truck, I don't think there's ever been a more masterful acquisition of any sort of messaging device that anyone has ever taken from someone else as Trump taking the garbage thing. Now, I recommended on the taco Trump always conquering opposition. Yeah. Some of you, let's see, Trump always creates opportunities.
There we go.
That's another.
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. Taking advantages, creating opportunities, another one. Trump always conquering adversity, or conquers adversity. Let me read this before I read it out loud.
Yeah, be careful.
All right, I don't know if I know whether or not that's too bad to read or not. I'm not sure that I fully understand it, so I won't read it out loud. Sometimes you all are too clever for your own good. I'm telling you, some of you people, we don't obviously respond to all of the text messages, and we, don't have a chance to read them all. But you all sometimes have us during commercial breaks just rolling, especially Sarah. I always know there's something good, particularly on the YouTube, because I don't have the YouTube feed up in front of me. I have the text line up right in front of me, and it'll be a commercial break, and then Sarah will just start hysterically laughing. And it's 99% of the time it's because of something that some of you posted, and just the hilarious nature of it. I love it. I'm telling you, if you had told me when I was in college that one day the Republican Party would be populated with voters that, well, one, if you had been, well, Donald Trump would be president. I'm like, what? What? As a like, what? But if you had told me that Republicans would be the ones with the hilarious sense of humor, and not dad joke sense of humor, but really sharp, oftentimes cutting and dark sense of humor, and Democrats would be the ones that just had no sense of humor whatsoever, whined and cried about everything, could not ever laugh at themselves, I would have thought, what happened? What occurred to make such a fundamental cultural shift? But that's where we are today. And I love it, because I remember when the Republican Party was so fuddy-duddy and dusty and old, and if they tried to be funny, it just never worked. It was awful. It was cringy. And now you got the Swalwells out there and some of these others that, what a horrible time to be a Democrat. News coming up in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. the last segment talking about tacos and the attempt by Democrats, the very sad failed attempt by Democrats to use tacos as a way to paint Trump as backing down on tariffs when, of course, he's not backing down. This is exactly what he has openly said. This was the plan. Put tariffs in place that given the current relationship with individual different countries would level the playing field, and if the country doesn't like it, they're more than willing to come to the table and try and renegotiate things. And when they do that, that's the negotiation. That's where Trump's like, okay, you want to alter the landscape here a little bit in a way that's more advantageous for the United States. We'll back off on the tariffs a little bit, and their attempt to prevent people from recognizing that this is exactly what Trump said would happen. This was his goal. He's succeeding. They claim that he's chickening out. And we were talking, just try to catch some people up if you weren't listening earlier, how Trump is very good about stealing this stuff. And someone had texted and he should have a taco bar at the White House. And so then we started coming up with different, instead of Trump always chickening out, which is what the taco thing is, changing it and instead having it be something that is pro-Trump. And so we've been going through a number of your different examples. Tariffs are China's orbit, taking America's corruption on. Another saying it should be antagonistic, like Trump annihilates crying outcast. I think this doesn't have it. This is a little different presentation, but I love let's talk about immigration.
Oh,
I
I
kind of
like
like
that.
that one. Let's talk about immigration. I think that's a pretty good one. It also mentioned just the different landscape and how people on the left have no sense of humor. They're just constantly angry, bitter, no creative sense of humor. And Trump supporters specifically have such a great sense of humor. And there have been a lot of things in which the left has tried to attack Trump or J.D. Vance on that because Trump supporters have such a great sense of humor, they kind of take it and run with it. Not to steal it, but because they think it's funny. And in the beginning, or at one point, there were a number of different memes trying to poke fun at the almost cherub-like look of J.D. Vance. And then it was Trump supporters that began making all of these memes of him as these different characters, just because it's funny. Trump supporters generally have a really good sense of humor and can laugh at themselves, can see the funny in stuff. And I think back, and even how Trump can make fun of himself. And I think back to what a difference in terms of environment versus the Obama years. And you remember, we live in a red state, Missouri, where there are rodeos. There was a rodeo clown at the state fair that did what rodeo clowns always do. And one of the things that rodeo clowns have historically done is they will wear masks of famous people, which oftentimes are presidents. And Obama was president at the time, and so that's the mask that he wore. And the world was so offended that he might make light of Obama. The governor, who was a Democrat at the time, Nixon, of the state, banned the guy from the state fair for the rest of his life. It was like we were living in North Korea. Other than instead of being executed, he was banned for life. As if, it was, and even a lot of Republicans were supportive of it. I'm like, what world are we living in? There was a period of time where there were news stories about people that got fired from their jobs because they went to Halloween parties dressed as Obama. Not even like making fun of him or anything. There's a period of time, and this is really what ended it, unless it's come back around, but there was a period of time where if you went to a costume store around Halloween, there were all sorts of political masks. Nixon, Bush, Reagan, Hillary Clinton, though she hadn't been elected president, but she was high profile, Bill Clinton, all these masks. But then it was just deemed, the dear leader Obama, you cannot make light of him. That's disrespectful. Look at the different cultural mindset. And you want to talk, if you want to get a sense of which side of the aisle is authoritarian or totalitarian, when people on the left make fun of Trump, Trump supporters either dismiss it or mock him back, or sometimes even embrace it and steal it away from him and have fun with it. When Obama was president, even if it wasn't mocking him specifically, but just wearing an Obama mask, you were ostracized. There were people that lost their jobs because they were in a photo at a Halloween party that wasn't even related to the job, wearing an Obama mask. That's how psychopathic and totalitarian the left is. I just don't know how any normal, non-political person can look at that landscape and then they say, oh yeah, Trump's a dictator and his supporters are the cult leaders. Are you serious? Do you see how you behave? Bunch of crazies. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in, mainly after 2 p.m., with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking ahead to Thursday, we'll see a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
one of the go-tos for Democrats is to claim that Republican legislation is going to kill people. This is an old, worn-out tactic. Now, the problem is increasingly psychopaths on the left believe it, and that's why they try to kill people. This was the motivating factor behind the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that tried to kill as many Republicans as possible. And we know this because he wrote letters to the editor about it that, it was a regurgitation of the Democrat talking points that Republicans were going to repeal Obamacare and all these people are going to die because this random person who's an expert said so. And you create an environment in which they send a message to people that are psychopaths or maybe even just a little bit unhinged that people will die unless somebody stops these Republicans. Well, if you're talking about saving lives, it's almost a form of self-defense, or you're defending the lives of others, right? Stepping in. And so we've gone from a society where once upon a time, people, even some people who believed it, political violence had not yet been normalized by the Democrat Party to the degree that it has today. But now it is very incendiary. It is very, very dangerous. And we aren't talking about just random nobody Democrats. For example, here's the election denier, leader of Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries.
Trump's one big ugly bill narrowly escaped the House of Representatives, and we're going to continue to press our case across the country, partner with Senate Democrats in making clear to the American people the type of damage that this bill would do if it ever became law. This bill actually hurts everyday Americans in order to reward billionaires. It would strip away health care from approximately 14 million Americans. Premiums, co-pays, and deductibles for tens of millions more will go up. Actually, if it ever were to be implemented into law, hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and people will literally die.
Well, Hitler killed people too, so it all...
It's on track.
It's on track. This all adds up. By the way, most of those things that he said actually did happen, but it was after Obamacare went into place, particularly hospitals and nursing homes starting to shut down, people losing their doctors. Not to get too far off point here, but as usual, the very things that they claim Republicans are going to do, they've already done. It kills me these Democrats run around talking about people are going to lose their health care. They're going to, all these horrible things. I thought everyone had free health care. Wasn't this the whole point of Obamacare? Hospitals are going to be these rural hospitals. You see these news stories all the time. More rural hospitals shutting down. I wonder why it is. Well, many of us said if Obamacare goes in, and here are the reasons why. It was articulated at the time. If it goes into effect eventually, independent doctors, family doctors, and rural hospitals are going to start getting shut down. No, they won't. Well, there'll be more of them. I remember Claire McCaskill making that claim. Emergency room visits would be shorter. Your premiums would go down. Deductible would, all of these wonderful things were going to happen, and all of a sudden, hospitals were going to start popping up in all these areas where people live out in the middle of nowhere. And, of course, the opposite happened. And then those same piece of crap shysters that convinced people to support them to put in something into place that causes harm and damage come right back around, and then they're like, well, you better watch out for those Republicans because they're going to do, that thing we already did. They're going to do it. There was a period of time where the same rhetoric, gonna steal away health care from old people. Oh, all these people are, and it's almost as if he thought, I'm not making the point. He goes, actually, you know what, and this is going to, and then people are going to die. This is what encourages some people to go out and start killing Republicans. We know this because they have said it's why they've done it. Or they have preceded it by declaring that if somebody doesn't stop these Republicans, people are going to die. Whether it is the anti-Semitic rhetoric that is accepted and embraced within the Democrat Party, or it is the absurd, baseless claims that that people are going to die if Republicans pass their legislation. I know this is coming from the party of abortion. And they know what they're doing. You cannot be so naive. You cannot be observant of people at an increasing frequency killing other people and outwardly saying they're doing it for the reasons that you claim, like they're using your words. And then pretend as if, oh, no. There's no connection whatsoever. These are bad people. And they are knowingly inciting others to kill political opposition. And I think that this needs to be spoken more. This needs to be articulate. I think a lot of people are afraid to speak this because I don't know, they're just afraid that it'll sound crazy, it'll sound It is common sense. It's common sense. I saw Scott Jennings of CNN. He was on some chick's podcast. I don't know who she was. Talking about the increased frequency of people that are feeding off the rhetoric of the left and using it for violence. It's like, well, no, it's even across, because January 6th, he's like, that was 5.5 years ago. And by the way, Republicans weren't running around justifying it. Republicans were the first ones saying people who committed acts of violence need to be held accountable. And by the way, the one person who was executed was a Trump supporter that was unarmed. Well, a person died there. Yeah, a Trump supporter. And they keep using January 6th as if that gives them permission to inspire people to murder Republicans. And that is evidenced by that exchange that Scott Jennings had. Well, but January 6th. Oh, okay, I didn't know that's how that worked. Because January 6th occurred. That means it's free game. Can we get some sort of equation here? Can the Democrats who continue to use January 6th as justification for Republicans being targeted, can we get some sort of formula to tell us how many Republicans have to get shot, how many Jews have to get shot, how many times President Trump has to get hit with a bullet or targeted with a bullet? How many times before it's even? How many times before Democrats say, okay, we're about even now? How many Tesla drivers have to have their vehicles damaged? How many elderly people wearing MAGA hats have to get randomly physically attacked? Can we get some sort of number from the left on this so we can at least know when it is that we're going to come to an end of this justification? Well, January 6th. At what point is that satisfied? How much blood must be shed? It would be very helpful if we could get just something that we could hold on to and look at so we get an idea of when this is going to be over, when it is the Democrats are going to stop encouraging this behavior. I suspect, like most things, to them, it never evens out. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Having Emily with House Theory Realty represent us was a wonderful experience. This is feedback from some folks who utilize her services. They note that she was incredibly professional, thorough, communication, superb. I'm sure she works with many clients at once, but she had a special way of making my husband and I feel like we were her top client. Her advice and support helping us really narrow down our search area and home needs was invaluable. She was polite, available, friendly, very knowledgeable. She always seemed to ask the great questions I did not think to ask. This is the real estate agent you want on your side. I look forward to working with Emily again in the future should our home needs change. You know, she mentioned that Emily had a way of making us feel like we were her top client. This is one of the reasons that I like her. And there are a couple of approaches when it comes to agencies. Some, you got a massive team and you end up working with 8 different people that have their area of expertise. Hers is more of the personalized experience from beginning to end. And that right there, that description that she made us feel like her top client, that's how all her clients feel. If that's what you want, home buying, home selling, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. We go to Tom. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Just an observation on the old TACO acronym there. How about this, man? Trump's achievements consistently outperform.
Hey, that's a really good one. I like that.
And you know what? Man? As far as the old Trump always chickens out, so picture this, man. A dude is standing in a field in Butler, Pennsylvania, takes a bullet to the ear, stands up with the American flag in the background, blood streaming down his face, and that just screams chicken.
Yeah.
You know what, man? That dude took on the entire swamp. Anybody else would have folded. He's the last man standing, and that's the personification. To quote the executive of Facebook Meta, he's just a badass. I mean, there is no chicken bone in Trump. And people got to realize God blessed us with this powerful leader to take on the world and set things straight. And this is just a failed attempt from the Democrats. When the best you got is Tampon Tim, give me a break.
Yeah, Code talking to us. Hey, Tom, that is an excellent point. I appreciate the call this morning. We were talking earlier, the Democrats' pathetic attempt to try and portray Trump as chicken and trying to portray the successes of bringing people to the negotiating table on tariffs as him chickening out and he's backing down, when, of course, that's not what's happening. And so they're using TACO. Trump always chickens out. And Swalwell. Can you imagine Swalwell being shot at and hit? His reaction, and that is such an excellent side-by-side comparison. This political party, the Democrats, and trying to claim Trump, not only that he stood up there and got shot, but that he fought his way up to demonstrate. And I think that wasn't even thought out. It was instinct. That was his instinct. As they are trying to move him off the stand. There was a brief moment the media was criticizing him for that. He was making their job harder by standing up and trying to prove a point. But I think they quickly realized that was not working in their favor, because what you saw is even people like Mark Zuckerberg, you saw manliness. And that is something that the left had been so successful at demonizing, that while not everyone viewed manliness or masculinity as being toxic, I think it had just been so ripped away out of our society that we just weren't used to seeing it in its natural form. And when that spontaneously occurred, it wasn't just Zuckerberg. I remember playing audio, I think it was from Jack Osborne, and a number of these guys that were lefty guys or Hollywood guys, it struck them in a way instinctually that they had not been struck in a very long time, if ever. And I think that's because we just really, truly saw in real time, organically, instinctually, manliness on full display in somebody that was a presidential candidate. And I think in our lifetime, many people had never seen that. And yeah, for the left to try to claim that Trump's a chicken after something like that is an excellent point. Tom, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We've got a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the First Alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see partly sunny skies in the morning with showers moving in mainly after 2 p.m. with a high near 85. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms throughout the night with a low around 65. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 75. And looking ahead to Thursday, a slight chance for showers with a high near 80.
The caller Tom earlier had mentioned Tampon Tim, and it is Tom's call really helped bring into focus some things. We were talking about Trump, and they try to portray him as a chicken, and you just look at his reaction to getting shot, and then what is literally the Democrats' answer to a man. At least that's what Tim Walz has claimed. This is why he was chosen. Because he was he was the demonstration of what men were. He was the one that was going to, because of his manliness, quote, code talk. In other words, men were really, really going to get and understand. That's what they put out compared to Trump? Are you, what? They are cosplaying what a man is. He was doing some interview. He was talking about how he claimed that he was asking his son, what is it about you young people that like Trump? Even like the premise of him trying to present himself as really learning how to understand what's going on. He just sounds like an old out of touch guy. So I asked my son, what is it about young guys that like Trump? And he claimed that his son was like, well, it's not, what he actually believes in or policy. It's just he's entertaining. Some of this is rationalization, I think, but none of it. It's again, they have no clue. They have no understanding. I'm thinking to yourself, just look around at what your party has done. We have spent how long with the left throwing around toxic masculinity and throwing around, mansplaining. And, men, they take up too much room on the subway by spreading their legs apart. And it's just like everything constantly culturally from the left dogging on guys. Just constantly. And then, I can't figure out why it is that guys don't like that. Wait, you're like a bunch of harpies. And you just nag. You're naggers. You just nag about everything that guys do that is natural and instinctual for guys. A guy, if in any way, shape, even chivalry, people on the left will pitch a fit about that. Guys simply trying to throw in there being polite. I'm one that I say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am a lot. Well, yes, ma'am. I've found myself. And it was a relatively even younger people. It's not for me. It's not an age thing. I say yes, ma'am, to young people as well. It could be some teenage girl. If she's helping, I just, yes, ma'am. And I could tell that this was an individual. I was stereotyping. An individual that might have a preferred gender. And so I wasn't my normal polite self. I didn't say yes. I didn't say anything at all. And it's just exhausting being a normal person, particularly a normal guy. And then, and to be told, lectured, well, if you don't support our candidate, it's because you hate women. It's like never ending. It is a bad marriage. It is a marriage with, in this context of the guy. It's a guy who is married to a woman that never gets off his back. Everything he does is wrong. Nitpicks at absolutely everything. I mean, and then just can't figure out why you don't like things, why you're not happy with this relationship. Like, are you out of your mind? Because you are an awful, unpleasant person that never gets off my back. That is the Democrat Party to the average man. And they will, and just like the overbearing, nagging girlfriend or wife, she will never, ever accept that she's the problem. Never accept. Now, for those that might find yourself just a little offended here, like, why are you using the woman as the example? Well, because this is the Democrats' difficulty understanding the man, and so I'm doing the relationship parallel. If it were the other way around, then it would be the other way around. And you listen to them try and if ever and as they grapple with how is it that we get guys to like us, it's never an understanding of, because we've been a horrible person. I'm just an awful nag. That's why. It's because the husband doesn't understand how good he has it, and I have to explain it to him. That's this Democrats spending all this money and trying to figure out what it is that we can do to get guys back and to better speak to them and understand. They never, ever accept maybe you inherently at your core are the problem. It isn't that you aren't communicating to us well enough. Trust me, you communicate too much as it is. We're tired of hearing you. It's you. It's not me. You are the problem. You just want to sit down with these Democrats and have 10 minutes with them. Say, I don't think you're hearing me. I'll see the look on your face when you get it. I will know. Until I'm telling you, you are the problem. Fully, 100% in this relationship. It is not me. It is not my lack of understanding. And the part of you that's the problem is not the failure to properly communicate to me why you're so good. That's not the problem. It's you at your core. And until Democrats get that, which I don't think they ever will, I just think, and some people are that way. And culturally, the Democrats have fostered and they have facilitated that environment and that mentality and that attitude. And a lot of it's because they create this bubble in which they just validate each other all the time. Social media has done that to a large degree. You have some person on the left, and then they post something on social media, and not that only the left does this, but this is part of why it is that they have cemented themselves into this inability to believe that they may just be wrong. And it's because all they have to do is go to social media, post something, and they will be told how right they are. They'll be totally validated. And not only that, but then they'll be validated in the person with whom you disagree. Oh, yeah, they're racist or they're homophobe or they're anti-trans. They're a bigot. They're a Nazi. And so now not only are you right, but you are morally superior. And you spend every day, and a lot of people on the left do. That's what social media is to them. It is to go get validated. You spend every single day being told, you're right, you're wonderful, they're awful, they're evil. Somebody like that, it is very, very, unless they're totally removed out of that environment, they're not going to change. And that's where the Democrat Party is today. Except for, apparently, in the U.S. Senate, the one Democrat who had a massive debilitating stroke to the point there were concerns about his cognitive ability. That appears to be the one Democrat that is not burdened with this self-imposed prison. And I've got some audio to further display that next. And by the way, this is why he is the one Democrat in the Senate that the Democrats are trying to get rid of. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical, Heating and Air. I finally did it. I got myself a whole new system, and that's all thanks to the Foreman team. I thought after 28 years, my home deserves a little HVAC upgrade, and I've only had it a couple days now, but I can already tell a huge difference. My new AC cools my home faster, and it doesn't make a knock when I turn it on, so that's a bonus too. And I know I always mention Russell, but his entire crew is just amazing to work with. Tim and Chaz were the crew members that were at my home, and they were just incredibly respectful and just down-to-earth, nice guys. So huge thank you to them. If it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, whether you need an AC tune-up or maybe you're like me and maybe it's time to finally do that upgrade, reach out to Russell and his team today. Now you can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
And all of the insanity and the totalitarianism that we see on full display and calls for violence and encouragement of violence by even elected members in the Democrat Party. There is one individual that has consistently not only not participated in that but pushed back, and that is Democrat Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania. And what is so crazy about it is he's the one guy that arguably medically has the mental problem. And this is a guy that had a stroke, and then he went into rehab for a while and really had an extremely difficult time communicating. Now, he does seem to be much, much better. He does still have some communication issues, but when it comes, he's not full-blown anti-Semitic. It's like, wow. He has been pretty clear about, the border was a real problem for my party, and Trump cleaned it up. Oh, my gosh. The guy's just speaking the truth. So, of course, naturally, the Democrats want him gone. The one Democrat who is actually behaving in a way, the Democrats have always virtually signaled that they are, bipartisanship. The American people want bipartisanship. The American people want to see Republicans and Democrats sit down together, and that's what crap. That may be what people want, but that is not what the Democrat Party is, because Fetterman actually literally does that. And the Democrats are trying to get rid of him. I think it was an op-ed piece in the Philadelphia Inquirer, is one of the papers, calling for him to be ousted. Literally sitting down. Here is now, during the last election, the people of Pennsylvania elected for their other U.S. Senator, Dave McCormick, Republican. And the two of them did a town hall together, Democrat and Republican. Oh, I think this is very telling. Do you know which of the two political parties was very welcoming of this? Which of the two political parties has constituents that said, you know what, this is really nice, particularly people in Pennsylvania? Republicans. Do you know which of the party is calling for their elected official to be ousted because he's willing to sit down with the political opposition? It's the Democrats. Now you tell me which of the political parties is totalitarian. I want to play a bit of audio from the two. And by the way, they didn't just sit up there and agree on everything by any stretch of the imagination. Most of it, when it came to policy, was disagreement. But they had... How crazy is this? In terms of actually giving substantial reasons and explanations as to why he believes what he believes, Fetterman does a better job than the vast majority of Democrats. Here is a conversation. This is just an excerpt of those two on the stage. You'll hear McCormick first, followed up by Fetterman.
But the thing that was most surprising was what we started to see on our nation's campuses, where you started to see these huge rallies and this anti-Semitism hatred really spewed at places like University of Pennsylvania and others. I actually went to University of Pennsylvania, saw these demonstrations. And this wasn't free speech. This was intimidation, in some cases physical violence. A person that was on my campaign was attacked because he had a McCormick hat and he had an Israel flag. And we see this deeply seated in our society. And it's something that we have to stand up against with complete moral clarity. It's something that we have to push back on, something we have to require and mandate that our institutions extricate themselves of anti-Semitism. And it's something that you can't have it both ways. You have to stand up with complete strength. And even during the campaign, when I was obviously running as a Republican and Senator Fetterman was supporting Senator Casey, he consistently spoke out with moral clarity. And I think the most important thing we can have is our public officials pushing, our leaders across our institutions pushing and demanding that we get rid of anti-Semitism.
And Senator Fetterman, you've been an unequivocal voice on that. Yeah, well, I think you can confirm this. The first time you and I met was the 5th anniversary of the Tree of Life massacre.
Yeah.
He lives in Squirrel Hill where the congregation is, and then we met there. And that, for me, that really just brought it home. I remember when that massacre happened in 2018 when I was campaigning for lieutenant governor. And now here we are now, and what happened yesterday in Boulder, it's astonishing, the kinds of the rank anti-Semitism out of control, and for me, and as my friend just pointed out, this is just rampant across all the universities, for all these places too. I mean, we really need to call it what it is. And for me, politically, being very, very firmly side on Israel, that kind of put parts of my party at odds for that. And I just want to continue. And I think we need to deliver a legislative solution too, and really address anti-Semitism and just call it what it is.
How is it? You think about this. Being against anti-Semitism has become partisan in this country. That when you have an elected Democrat and an elected Republican come together and both speak out against anti-Semitism, the Republican is well received, but the Democrat from the Democrats is not. Now, he is from Republicans, because you would think that this would be completely bipartisan. You would not think it would be problematic for a Democrat to say he is against anti-Semitism. That is where we are in this country. To the point the Democrats want him out of office. Fetterman made an offhand comment during this town hall event that I thought it really is a horrifically sad commentary on where we are. And listen, I'm not one of these people that everyone should get along for the sake of getting along. I don't believe that. But I also think it's cartoonishly absurd the way that the Democrats behave, and it's authoritarian. We can't even talk to the other side. We have to take the opposite position of the other side. It's infantile. It's dangerous. But Fetterman made an offhand comment. I don't have the audio clip, but he mentioned that at one point McCormick, the Republican senator from Pennsylvania, and I don't know even what the issue was about. It may have been something about Israel, wanted to come out and praise Fetterman because of his stance on whatever the issue was. He called Fetterman ahead of time because he was afraid that it would create a backlash for him within the Democrat Party. You think about that for a moment. And Fetterman, to his credit, he's like, we're on the same side on this thing. This is what the people need to see. You have such a close-minded, bitter, totalitarian party that your opposition doesn't even want to praise you for fear that your own party will have your head? That's sick. And whatever the reason, whatever the motivation, and Lord knows that when it comes to a tremendous number of issues that Fetterman, I disagree with. But man, if the Democrat Party were made up of Fettermans, this country would be much better. And when I say that, I mean somebody who doesn't base his beliefs off the opposite of what the other guy says and just refer to the opposition as Hitler all the time. And also, doesn't side with anti-Semites that want to finish what Hitler started. That'd be a bonus, too. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. All right. You ready for this? Is a good one.
Okay.
It's not, but Josh Hawley on with Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity asking Hawley about the Senate and investigating the cover-up of Biden's cognitive decline and so forth, and was asking if, that was something he thought was necessary and if that was going to happen.
Just listen, I'll tell you something that I haven't said before because it came from a Secret Service whistleblower this past year. I talked to so many of them after the attempted assassinations of President Trump, but this Secret Service whistleblower actually was assigned to Biden, and he told me that Biden used to get lost in his closet in the mornings in the White House. I mean, the guy literally stumbling around in the White House residence couldn't find his way out of his own closet. The President of the United States.
I believe it.
Yep, same.
I absolutely believe it. Now, I fully recognize that that a closet in the White he's been talking about this. Is going to be different than the closets in my house. My house was built in the late 70s. I got small closets. So, I mean, they might be big walk-in. Maybe you got like a little turn and so forth. But I'm just like, did he get caught up in the clothes? Like Jill can't find him, but she hears hangers clanging together, and she's like, and so she kind of peeks in there and doesn't see anything, and so she looks around elsewhere, and then she hears clanking again, and then she pokes her head back in and just sees some of the suit jackets kind of, waving back and forth, and then find him in there. Is that what happened?
Honestly,
or I guess the Secret Service, or the Secret Service, I guess the way that Hawley describes it sounds to me as if the Secret Service obviously was privy to this, so perhaps they were the one who found. Maybe they just, no one could find him. Where's the president? Anybody have eyes on the president? No, we don't have eyes on the president. Where is he? We got to find him, and then just find him in there in between suits in the closet, confused. Oh my! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! I believe it, 100%. 100%. I believe it. Just remember, this is the guy that we were all told ran circles around everyone else, mentally and physically. And those are the same people that say we should trust them today when it comes to their analysis and opinions regarding anything, the economy, tariffs, Trump. Got quite a track record, don't they? Don't forget, we got happy hour coming up Friday, 4 to 6 at Retro Metro. Glenn Beck is